The Straw Hat Jolly Roger is a symbol of protest! All those pictures just now, those were all pictures from various protests all across the world with the Straw Hat flag being used. Now, it may initially seem silly that Jolly Roger from a Japanese pirate battle shonen is being used at protests as a symbol of freedom and fighting corruption, but if you take even a minute, look closer. It makes perfect sense why this happens. Let's think about this occurrence and analyze it more closely, shall we? I'm Austin. This is the Final English Project. So, first things first. What's One Piece? Brief synopsis of One Piece. One Piece is a manga produced for Shonen Jump by Eiichiro Oda starting in 1997. It follows the aspiring pirate king, Monkey D. Luffy, pirate with the power of the Gum Gum fruit, meaning that his body is made of rubber. This rubber boy starts off his adventure to sail the Grand Line and collect crew members that all wish to further their own dreams. Initially, it appears that it is a simple battle manga with shenanigans and cool powers. And while it does have that, there's more to the story as well. The main themes of One Piece include dreams, freedom, and fighting corruption. The government is the main antagonist, with the main characters being the Straw Hat pirate crew, being enemies of the world government, and even having allies in the Revolutionary Army. So, there are some connections to be made with protesting against corrupt governments. Speaking of those protests, let's look at them, shall we? Indonesia is the first recorded instance of the Straw Hat Jolly Roger being flown at protests, with instances as early as October 2023 and in Yogyakarta during protests against the Gaza genocide. More recently, however, it has been flown again to protest the call to raise the Indonesian flag by President Prabowo Subianto. Prabowo called for Indonesians to fly the national flag everywhere. Instead, dissatisfied Indonesians flew the Straw Hat Jolly Roger, as the anime reflects the injustice and inequality that Indonesians experience. The injustice is because of controversial legislative changes, allowing increased military involvement in government. Military leaders can now become political ones as well, without leaving or retiring from the military. This is something that could lead to an abuse of power and is a reminiscent of past times where the military controlled the government unfairly. Some other injustices include rising taxes and corruption. 2024 alone has 364 corruption cases, with potential state losses reaching around 17 billion USD. This injustice and corruption is what makes the Indonesian leaders someone to fight and protest against, and make them considered threats to freedom to the Indonesian people. The most interesting part about the Straw Hat flag being used here as protest is the reaction from the government. There is police violence against those that fly the flag. There were large outcries of treason and perceived threats to the peace of the country by legislation and lawmakers in the government. There are claims that it is propaganda to disunite the country. Most citizens agree that it is harmless. And it seems like they're uniting just against the government there. Speaking of uniting against the government, Nepal soon followed suit, with more drastic and observable large changes. Protesters managed to burn down parliament, with someone hanging the Straw Hat flag on the gates of the burning structure. Nepal flew the Straw Hat Jolly Roger at Nepalese Gen Z protests, protesting a nationwide ban on numerous social media platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and were motivated by the public's frustration with corruption and display of wealth by government officials and their families, with their kids flexing their wealth on social media, as well as allegations of misuse of government funds. Protests came to expand onto broader issues, with the protests critiquing more general things with the government, power abuse, and corruption. Protests were taken into a more violent path, with police violence against hospitals and children. People died, with at least 76 deaths, one being a 12-year-old child. The protests resulted in the current prime minister at the time resigning. Thanks to the accidental footage from We Hate the Cold vlogging YouTube channel, we get to see the protests in a more authentic way than through pictures. In that footage, we're able to see some Jolly Roger flags of the Straw Hats being flown at the protests without specifically even looking for it, along with children and citizens wearing merchandise of the series. You can see that it's a popular series there, and that it contributed to its usage as a symbol. Speaking of that symbol, I had said that it represented freedom and fighting corruption earlier. How is that? Well, the Straw Hat Pirates are criminals that oppose the world government and sail the seas. That government, in this story, are evil. World government and One Piece have demonstrated their corruption and evil countless times throughout the story, making them a strong, overarching antagonist for the series. Examples of this corruption include mountain loads of propaganda and censorship, like when they spread propaganda about a child, stating that they are evil simply because she had the possibility of being able to read an ancient language that recorded the past, or cutting the feed of a live stream of the execution of a notorious pirate so they could destroy the enemy forces brutally while maintaining appearances, or censoring any mistakes they have made, like when they didn't share the info that several of the world's worst criminals had escaped an impenetrable prison. A Navy admiral murdered a Marine for requesting to lead during the war, and that same admiral nearly killed another Marine for speaking up and asking to stop the war after they had already won the conflict so that they could stop needless bloodshed. That admiral is one of the top people in the organization and lead the Navy. That same Navy claims to follow and serve justice, but their justice is clouded and muddy. They follow the orders of the world government and carry out their wishes instead of truly doing good. There are some good Marines, and the normal runts of the Navy are manipulated citizens, so there are still people that do good within the system, but it is overall an evil organization. They simply serve the world nobles of this world, named the Celestial Dragons. The Celestial Dragons are scum that have no regard for human life, have a ridiculous amount of slaves, and do whatever they wish. Their wealth comes from the taxes that they collect from all of the countries part of the world government, and they use that money in any way they please. They have absolute government protection, and if one were to be harmed, then a Navy admiral would be called down to deal with the issue, which is terrifying, as admirals are some of the strongest in the One Piece verse. So, we have a military power that rules through strength, that uses tax money on frivolous things for their nobles, who are stuck up in greedy, horrible evils that spread propaganda and disinformation to keep the world unaware as they censor what happens and control the narrative. It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? This is why One Piece is now connected to the issues in these various corrupt countries and being used in a way to protest corruption. So, why the Jolly Roger? Because it represents Luffy, the protagonist of One Piece. Because Luffy and freedom are two ideas that are nearly synonymous in the story. This character is connected to the idea of freedom in so many ways. He embodies it quite perfectly. Luffy is a person that is free. He fights those that oppress and frees those who are confined. He has liberated several towns, cities, and countries, has fought oppressors and offered his protection to those that need it. Even his powers reflect the idea of freedom. As being a man made of rubber, he can be as flexible as he wishes and can shape his body into any way that he pleases. He later unlocks the true strength of this fruit and now basically has Toon Force and can make his surroundings rubber as well. He brings freedom with him, not just for himself and his crew, but those he meets as well. This is why his Jolly Roger, which represents him, is being used at protests. The flag reflects the values and ideas that he represents and has become a symbol of freedom and fighting against oppression itself. I hope this video has been able to at least prompt some thought and maybe teach you some things about the state of the world and how media, One Piece, is shaping it. It's important to keep an eye out for oppression and corruption, and it's also important to be aware of the deeper themes of the media and stories around you. You might miss what the author is trying to tell you. Media analysis and comprehension is becoming increasingly important in this day and age, so keep an eye out and try and think about the things you see, you watch, and consume. Something important might pass you by.